Now, welcome to what is unofficially the 1 millionth Squid Game video on YouTube. Yay!
We did it!
Yay!
Woo!
But seriously, if you are one of the 5 people who has yet to see this series and you don't want anything ruined, it's a really good time to click away because we will be discussing this thing, hopefully in some depth here. And you actually watched this weeks ago before the world kind of even knew about it. You watched it like the day it came out because I don't even know why. And I just watched it 2 days ago, 3 days ago. I just binged the whole dang thing.
Well, I watched it right away because I had a feeling. Honestly, I think Netflix recommended it to me the moment it came out because I watched Alice in Borderland. I mean, we watched it.
Which was good, yeah, that we watched together.
So if you liked Squid Game, definitely
Very
watch Alice in Borderland. Of the two, I actually think I liked Alice in Borderland better.
Oh, okay, interesting.
But that's another topic for another time, I suppose.
Yeah, the thing about those two is they were very similar yet kind of different at the same time. I mean, Alice in Borderland was kind of, they kind of got thrown in there against their will, whereas this was, people chasing the dream of becoming rich and getting rid of their debts. And
Well, it wasn't even just chasing the dream of getting rich. It was getting out
of
crippling
debt.
debt.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't so much about becoming rich. I mean, that kind of...
Yeah, no one was in there just because they wanted to be in there to play the game to get the money. It was... They needed to play the game because their life's circumstances were so bad that without that money, they were going... I mean...
Yeah, there were any number of bad things going to happen to them.
Situations. I mean, be it the cops coming to get them.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about this is just how it's kind of taken the world by storm, which I think has a lot to do with just the time we're living in. I mean, as a lot of you know, people are quitting their jobs left and right. There are openings everywhere you go has a help, at least here in the United States. I don't know who's watching this where, but every place you go, help wanted sign, now hiring. I mean, it's a strange time here in the United States, to say the least. And a lot of it has to do with, wealth disparity and all that sort of thing. So I think this just kind of hit on the right note at the right time.
Right. And with, like you said, all those help wanted signs, there's more people at home to stream. More people are consuming social media content than ever before.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So, I mean, to have something like this slip into the mainstream... Automatically, other people obviously were the 1 millionth review.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even watch Squid Game. I've never watched a Squid Game video on YouTube yet. They still pollute pollute might be the wrong word, but they still pop up in my recommendation feed for,
Right.
I'm like, okay, how do you know I would be interested in this? How do you know I just watched it? It's creepy.
They know all.
They do, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. To jump right into it, I think the most fascinating aspect of it for me is, you had the rich people at the end, the VIPs. And what I find fascinating about that is, here you have these people who are doing anything to try to get out of debt. Part of it is to get rich. Part of that becomes the motivation, I think, because they see all the money dropping in and they realize, hey, every person we kill is more money we make. And here you have these super rich people at the end who are so bored of being super rich that they're looking for anything to... and I find it interesting, at least in the translation, the American translation, to bring them joy again, which is something we talk about, at least I talk about a lot in my Star Wars videos about, the dark side and the light, the difference between, pleasure and joy. And joy comes from giving and, being a part of something greater than yourself. And it's very interesting how this ties into Star Wars. And I was tempted to just go all in and make a video on that because there are an odd number of similarities between like the Sith and these VIPs and how they kind of carry themselves.
Right. Well, and they have masks.
Yeah, that's another good example. Now you're making me really want to do this video, but yeah.
Well, yeah, they have to keep their anonymity.
Yeah.
But one thing that I thought was really amazing throughout the series is the altruism. The fact that we follow our main character, poor, in debt, signed away his body to science if he can't pay his debt.
Yeah.
Doesn't treat his mom well, who he's kind of mooching off of. Doesn't treat his daughter well. He goes and gambles away the money that he's meant to spend on her, steals his mom's money. He's kind of just low. He's low.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things I said to you, because we watched it together, you watched it a second time with me, I kind of commented, I always love shows or series that have kind of that asshat or deadbeat, protagonist that at first you're like, this guy is, he's a loser, I don't like him. And then, he grows from that,
It's like he didn't even learn the value of human life and how important,
it
is to be good to each other until he was in the situation where it wasn't just the games started out with them killing players. Yeah,
and
as it went on, it was players killing players.
Yes.
Although the games got really lazy at the end.
Lazy. What do you mean?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's talk about the games then in order.
Okay.
Game 1. Red light, green light. That was the jolt game right there. I mean...
That was the this is going to be not what you expected. Mm-hmm. Clearly.
There was the loophole kind of sneaking behind other people, and it was part of playing the game, and some people took the advantage of that immediately.
Learning to use other people.
Using other... Exactly. It was showing these people were selfish. They were all in it for themselves, 100%,
Yeah.
Okay, then let's move into Game 2, the honeycomb.
That was my favorite game.
Well,
I like the cleverness of licking the backside to get it out.
Oh, that was genius.
Because the game creators probably didn't see that one coming either.
But it was still where everyone was very much... They were so out for themselves. I mean, his SNU buddy, which is what I'm going to call him because I can't think of his name at the moment, he figured it out, but he didn't clue any of his friends in. He didn't say, no, let's all just stay in one line. No, he knew that he had to wheedle people out of this to get more money at that point,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting that, when there are a lot of people, you see them group up and kind of form tribes, I guess you could even say that. This tribalism comes out when you have so many people. But when it whittled down to the final few, all bets are off. It was everybody for themselves. And what fascinated me about it was just how it speaks to human nature, how we act, whether we want to believe that's what we're like or not. And then overcoming it, like he overcomes it in the end. He doesn't even use the money he wins.
Right. Well, you can even see in Game 2, he didn't share his tip about licking the back. He didn't tell anybody.
No, he didn't.
He just started doing it, and other people saw what he was doing and caught on. I mean, think of him at that point in the game. He was still really only cared about himself. He didn't even tell the old man, gesturing at him, pointing, look what I'm doing, holding it up. He didn't give those hints out to anybody else in the game.
No, he didn't.
Now we're on to the tug of war.
Yep.
I mean, again, we saw... You saw the tribes. That's really where they started solidifying. But they started excluding people based on characteristics and gender.
Let's call it for what it was.
Trying to tribe up as their own. Well, no, they didn't want old people either.
No, you only wanted
they all were
the
like,
strongest.
Well, let's look for... Because not knowing the game, you could see, let's all bring back strong, young bodies.
I mean, not that I think this was a commentary on it necessarily, but I mean, it shows you when push comes to shove, people, equality, all of that gets thrown out the window in favor of purely, a meritocracy, basically. You're the strongest, you're the best, you're the person we're going to pick. I mean, again, it just shows human nature, whether we want to believe it or not. And I know equality, all this stuff is a huge topic, so I don't want to get too much into it. I mean, obviously, I believe in equality, but I think it's amazing when it comes right down to it. When it comes to your life on the line, you'll throw everything out the window. Equality means nothing. It means having the best person at your side.
Right. That was exactly what they were doing again with this game. People looked for their best chances of survival.
Exactly.
Okay, then we get into the lazy games.
The lazy games.
All right, so we move into Game 4, the marbles.
Which I knew immediately was going to be pitting people against each other.
Well, they immediately... It sticks to the overarching Squid Game themes of... Well, first off, they knew people would immediately gravitate towards the person they knew the best.
Mm-hmm. Because they figured they would be teaming up with that person. Right. And again, we're looking for strong partners.
Exactly. They took their strongest partner, the person they thought, hey, you and I, we're going to make it. They have a good bond with this person. They trust them to an extent. And then they turned them against each other. Because that's what they do in the Squid Game. They don't want you to work together. They don't want to bring out the best in people. They're bringing out the worst, and they're betting on it.
Yes.
They're not looking for you to go... I mean, did a single one of those groups give up for their partner? Most likely, no. I mean, the husband and wife team... Oh, my goodness. That's hard hitting. I mean, did she give up?
I don't know.
Did he just feel so guilty?
I wonder, not that I want to wonder about that situation, but I mean, did she say, I think you have a better, I mean, again, going to the best of the best, who has the best shot of surviving it.
But at the same time, without knowing what the other games are, there's no way to judge what's going to be strongest.
True, and I mean...
Like they kept saying early on, what if they play a girls' game? Like elastics, as they kept calling it.
I don't even know what that is, but I just thought, like I said, there was a lot of commentary there about equality and what it really means. And because it was funny, because that was part of their thing. They wanted everybody to be treated equal. And you see what happens when everybody gets treated equal. The best rise to the surface. And the most devious, unfortunately, sometimes rise to the surface as well. Again, I thought it was an amazing just commentary about human nature.
I agree. So they have everyone like turn on their best friend. And there was a lazy game because they didn't even make their own rules. It was just, here's the marbles, get them from your opponent, this is the time you have, make it up. So I thought that, like I said, I thought that game was lazy on the part of the game creators, not on the part of the storyteller, not on the part of the writer.
I think it wasn't intentionally so, though. I mean, they wanted to see because, like you said, they're.
But how exciting would that be for the VIPs even to watch?
Pretty exciting when you have the people who they've been watching for the last couple days and pairing up and becoming friends. You immediately divide that. I mean, you're tearing apart all these teams and that they had been building in this tribalism.
It's too stretched out, though. Everything else has really been designed that if you were as a spectator, us watching it, yeah. But think about if we were VIPs. I know it's a horrible situation to put yourself in.
Oh, well.
Think about when you were watching any of the games. That one was the most boring to watch.
Yes.
Because you just got a whole bunch of people playing marbles, and we don't know exactly how well they're seeing it.
Yeah, you could also argue that was the most dramatic of the episodes. It might not be the most exciting of the episodes, but that one, with him and the old man, and then the two girls whose names I don't remember.
I remember Sabyok.
Okay, but yeah, that was the most.
They didn't use their names for a lot, so.
And then the betrayal too, of
that betrayal.
Which I saw that coming. I knew he was gonna do something.
Takes out Ali.
SMU, yes.
SNU.
It's it was, like I said, it was the most dramatic and kind of gripping episode, maybe not the most exciting, but it shows what you're willing to do. Like these friendships you formed in the last few days, in some cases they mattered, like between the two girls, and in some cases between Ali and SMU, as you call them, didn't matter so much. It was all about surviving.
Well, if you think about it, this is the only game that Guillaume betrayed somebody.
No, but what I found interesting about that is you could tell it was it pained him to have to kind of cheat the old man.
Right, because he was already starting to realize how important each life is, and then
even this old man who's in his 80s and is dying of brain cancer or whatever it was, even that he was he had to make the decision, obviously.
And he wasn't really, you could tell he wasn't planning on cheating until the old man tipped his hand.
Which he did intentionally, which we find out later, obviously, which is really interesting. Like, he didn't want to cheat him, but when the opportunity presented itself, he took it.
He took it. And like I said, seeing how much it pained him, that was important for the story.
It was.
It was an important turning point for him as a character.
Oh, I agree.
And then we'll move on to my favorite game.
Okay.
The Glass Stepping Stones.
That was your favorite, huh?
I think it was my favorite.
I don't
because
know
there
which
were
one
so
was
many
mine.
ways I think that you could have circumvented that game. That's why I think it was kind of lazy.
Oh, do explain.
Okay, in the rules they listed, you have to guess which one is which, and you have to make it to the other side. Those were pretty much the only rules. But they didn't need to. They couldn't. Why didn't they just the metal beams down the center? Why didn't they just scoot along the metal beams?
I thought about that, and I'm assuming they probably would have been. They thought they would have been disqualified anyway for cheating.
But that wasn't in the rules that you couldn't. You just had to step on the thing and say which one you thought it was. Which
True.
Clearly you would be able to figure it out. Or if they... and another thing is, this really showed the selfish nature that most of these people just kept going. I mean, the one who could tell which one was tempered glass didn't try and go first or try and direct.
That was interesting that he didn't let it be known until he was next up.
Until it was his turn. He was just I'm looking at the glass, I can tell.
Well, the people behind in the back of the line weren't hoping the people, would pick the right one just to get across. They knew every time you picked one right, that's, one more across that you don't have to eventually possibly worry about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, there were more platforms than players.
Yeah. So
but odds were still in their favor.
Yeah, some people needed to pick right, which, 50-50, you do the math, and more than likely you're going to...
Yeah, you'll be fine as long as you're in the back.
I also do like the one guy who did the math trying to figure... it exponentially grows every time you're trying to pick again right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not a matter of, 50-50.
50-50.
No, it grows exponentially trying to pick them right, and it becomes near...
Well, then he had such a long streak, and the next person they weren't paying enough attention to which ones he was jumping at.
I know, I like that.
Oh,
I liked when he got up there, hey, that panic moment, oh my God, I wasn't, which one is it? I'm so focused elsewhere and on what's going on up there that I wasn't even paying attention to what the first one is anymore.
Right.
Which you can actually see happening.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised no one from the back fell.
Then there was the sixth game,
Oh,
which really...
but before that, tragedy struck. Because again, lazy, bad game design. They blew up all the glass when our three main protagonists got across, and she pretty much got maimed, and it crippled, and eventually it was pretty much the cause of her death.
Pretty much.
She wouldn't have
yes
been,
and no.
She wouldn't have been caught unawares. She would have been able to defend herself, or at least seen the attack coming, had she not already been skewered and losing blood and passing out.
Well, I mean...
She passed the game, but she got killed by shrapnel when they unnecessarily blew up the glass.
Okay.
Not fair.
Not fair, but she still would have probably ended up killed by SMU, as you call him. Somehow, some way, maybe.
Well, no, because he'd probably still look out for her, and he was kind of only looking, with three people, it's hard to be that one person who goes and attack because the other two would probably gang up on you.
True.
I mean, that's my train of thought, is if I saw the one of the three people left, even if I didn't know them that well, even if one of them was... Plus, he betrayed Ali. He didn't
know that, though. They didn't know he had betrayed.
He knew Ali wasn't there.
Well, sure, but for all they know, I mean, he probably told them they played a fair game, and the winner was the winner, and that was it.
Right, but I feel like most people react in a 2-on-1 scenario aren't gonna...
They mostly are. I'm sure you're gonna go against the attacker. If you're, like you said, if you're one of three people, and someone else attacks another, you're probably gonna go with the defender.
The girl.
Yeah, because you're gonna assume they're less aggressive than the other person. That if they're willing to kill that person, they're gonna be willing to kill me too.
Right.
Makes sense.
So it makes sense that they would automatically team up to think together we're strong enough to protect ourselves from the third.
Yeah. All right, now on to the sixth game, which really wasn't much of a game. It was just a beatdown.
The Squid Game.
Yeah.
I do wonder, the games were designed from the beginning that only one person was going to win, right? Maybe, maybe not. Because Squid Game, when he played it as a child, there were teams.
Yeah.
So would they have to have divided the money if multiple people had made it that far?
I think that
really
was the
just
idea.
Rooting?
That was the idea, wasn't it?
But they were counting on people's gluttony and selfishness to win it down, wheedle it down, and that's sad because it's like that one Saw movie. One of them.
That one Saw movie. Yeah, that narrows it down to like 15.
I don't remember the number. There's so many of them.
Exactly.
But it turned out when they got to the end that like everyone could have made it, but they didn't see that way, and only one person was there at the end and couldn't win the last challenge without more people. And then he gets out. He's free of the Squid Game. Hooray! And
he doesn't use a dime. Well, no, he takes out 10,000,
10,000,
which is like $10 basically. Yeah.
Right, because he won all that money, and then the game changed him.
Well, of course,
all the death, the destruction. His friend. He didn't know what to do with himself. It was so sad.
Would you? I mean,
no.
No decent person would go through that.
His mother passed away, who he was doing this for.
I know.
Oh, that was a real kick.
I kind of saw that coming, though.
It was so sad.
Yeah, that was the point.
And then he doesn't really start snapping back to himself until he sees the other person playing the game.
I know. Yeah, someone else about to go in.
After he has his verbal duel with old Ilham, proving that goodness still exists and you can still see the best in people. That he doesn't. Obviously, the old man.
Well, he's become so.
He's just become so destructive.
Yeah.
Like he said, he bets on people like you bet on horses.
I mean, you gotta keep upping the ante, the thrill level. Mm-hmm. It's just like a drug, the first time you do it, it feels great, but then when it becomes you get used to it eventually, and you need to keep upping the ante. Any kind of addiction.
How many Squid Games have
a lot of them apparently.
Past, that there's been one winner. That everyone has just gone in, killed them all. How many? The percentage rate, 93% coming back after they vote to end the game. 93% of the people went, yeah, no, I'm coming back. That money, I need it. Realizing that their life wasn't any better.
Yeah, realizing you'd rather risk being the one, essentially, winning a small type of lottery almost, over, just your endless despair and depression that you've been facing for who knows how long.
I'm curious how different a season 2 of this would be.
I mean, it would have to be just a different. Assuming it's going to follow him again, going back in there, it has to be a whole different.
Well, and how is he gonna try and go back in a different way? Is he gonna try and go back as a player?
Well, I'm assuming he's trying to go back as a player, right?
Yeah,
he's going to be able to. Inside. I mean, I almost think the VIPs would allow it just to see how the people react and what he says, and Can he sway the people or not?
Can he change the game from the inside?
Mm-hmm.
That would be very interesting.
I mean, that's
not
what
to
I
mention
think.
we don't know for 100% sure that the cop is dead. Our detective.
No, he just fell into the water.
He got shot and he fell into the water. I think there's a revenge arc for him against his brother.
Yeah,
the front man.
I absolutely think so. I mean, there's going to be a season 2. I'd have to. I mean, I know they set it up. I don't know if it's officially confirmed.
I wonder who the new head honcho is. Olenheim's gone.
That's true.
So it would have to be one of the other VIPs or even maybe the front man himself.
Perhaps, yeah.
But yeah, I really would love to see where they go in season 2. Oh, not to mention you commented when you're watching it, the music for Squid Game.
Oh, creepy, yeah.
Because they do a lot of like childhood or memory type music and things that you'd hear when you were in school, and and then there's kind of the dystopianness to it, and even the music outside of it it's very creepy and off-putting.
But yeah, all around, I mean, just a fascinating look at humanity. That's what I loved about it. I'm sure there are people who just like the games and just seeing kind of a Hunger Games type thing, but beyond that was really
a great message.
Yeah, it is, and it's kind of like I said, it's kind of a sad look at humanity. I mean, just showing what depths people will go to,
right?
To
how far people will sink for their greed, for their desperation.
Yeah, and what happens when you attain all that money and wealth? Like you get bored with life, because life isn't about attaining wealth. It isn't about. I mean, that it can be if you want it to be in theory, but I mean, should that be what life is about, trying to gain wealth, or should it be about helping people, which is what he ultimately tries to do?
Though one thing that I learned from this is never trust the Korean police. I mean, think about it. They do at least one Squid Game a year.
That's what
456 people went missing, and the police are like, meh.
I was thinking the same thing. I mean, I'm assuming most of the time they take kind of, low-class people that quote-unquote nobody's going to miss if they go, if they disappear.
But they have families.
I know. I was thinking when I saw how many Squid Games with all the different binders and stuff, like, well, so this has been happening years and years. These people go missing, and
some people are like, well, my kid's at home. I have this. I have, and they're like, yeah.
Yeah, the Korean police need to step it up a little bit.
What do they write this off as, though? Once or twice a year when...
More than likely, someone, high up in the Korean government, I'm sure, probably knows about it, helps keep it on the down low.
Yeah, I'm sure. Not to mention the VIPs.
I mean, corrupted politicians. Who would ever believe such a thing like that could be a possibility?
No.
I know, that's unheard of. All politicians should be trusted at face value.
Well, they should be.
They should be.
But they should be trustworthy.
Interesting.
So overall, opinions on the game of the squid.
Like I said, a fascinating look at humanity, and it kind of leaves you with a somewhat sad and empty feeling, yet at the same time you're inspired by the one person who through it all tried to do the right thing and does do the right thing.
And I think it's good for TV to have something like this come out, because it feels so original.
Yes.
It's not a remake, it's not a redo, it's not the same recycled story.
No, and it's not, you kind of know who's going to win, but at the same time, you're still interested in how we get to that winner, because you start getting attached and caring about some of these other characters, and you realize, yeah, they're probably not going to make it, but how did they die?
Well, at any point, they could have ended the game.
They kind of forget about that. They forget they can do another vote.
I mean, if before the last game, Cybiok would have said, yeah, no, we're done, it could have been over.
Could have been over. But the deeper in you... I mean, it's funny that even after the first game, they're all willing to come back. But you got to imagine the deeper in you go, the more that it gets into your head, like, I could be the winner. I could win this.
Right.
Not really thinking about or separating the fact that other people have to die for you to become
the
wealthy,
number one.
Yes.
But did they? I'm still so curious on
I don't think so. I mean,
what would they have done had a multitude of people gotten to the last round? It's possible.
Well, it's certainly possible, but I mean, certain games...
They just expected people to kill each other. That's why they left them the knives.
Well, yeah, that was... I saw that one coming, too.
But we know Squid Game could have been played as a team sport, so does that mean there could have been a team of winners?
In a way, yeah, but certain games pitted you... I mean, like the marbles and the
tug
of war.
You're
cutting people... You're cutting your population in half with those games.
If they would have been smart in the stepping stones, the glass stepping stone game.
Yeah, which was
we could have had a whole ton of people make that game.
Certainly, yeah.
Especially if the glass gentleman would have been
Stepped up
identifying
and
it.
been like, hey, I've worked with glass.
Think about it. All 16 of them could have made it through that game. Then they would have had an 8-on-8 Squid Game.
That would have been cool. Mm-hmm. And they still probably would have ended up beating the crap out of each other in the end. So
yes, but somebody could have actually connected to the winning or been pushed into the losing.
True.
And then half of them still would have won.
True. And maybe that's what happens in season 2.
I'd be interested in that.
Maybe his goal will try to get as many people through as possible, and then there will be people who don't want to play by those rules because they want to win it all. That would be my, rough guess as to what you could do with a season 2. Who knows what they will do, but like I said, with the popularity of it, I'm sure it's already in the works.
I'm very interested to see where they go.
Me too. All right, well, I guess that's all we got for you this time. Now it's your turn to take to the comments below. Tell us what you thought of Squid Game. Tell us what you thought of what we thought of Squid Game. And until next time...
Squid.
Thanks for watching.